On today's episode of The Back of the Bird, we sit down with Curt Malawsky, the head coach and GM of the Vancouver Warriors, chat about his playing career, his long coaching career at the junior and NLL levels, and tell some great stories, including the story of how he got his nickname Mouse. Also catch up on some news and notes around Canadian lacrosse and the NLL. Let's get into it. Episode 118 of The Back of the Bird.
Take your first ride and run, baby, run. If you want a sign, this is it. You're mad, your magic, you're as hot as a gun. You wanna play with fire, consider this. You'll chase the thrill if it's worth the hit, 'cause you never ever wanna work for it. Take your first ride and run, baby, run. You got a spine of steel and a roar of thunder. Yeah, you make me drown, yeah, you're pulling me under.
All right, another week. The consistency boys are buzzing. We're back again. This is Back of the Bird. What do we got? 118? 118. Now that's presented by Cottage Springs. You see that? And I actually got Pauly and Donnie's merch here. Got Pauly and Donnie's merch here behind me. It's collecting dust. I've had it for months, but we'll get that over to you guys soon. Now we got to dive into one quick thing on these Cottage Springs. I know we've been running on the Springers, the 7%ers, but we're almost officially in summer. 10 more days till the summer solstice. You know what we're running with now, Pauly?
What are we doing?
The Dock Day pack. We had them at your place. New flavors across the board: blackberry, pineapple, tangerine, strawberry. I've been diving into a huge tangerine guy on that side of things. So go check them out. Donnie, you get to guess again. What's the 8-pack price?
8-pack price, $21.
Wow, $21.95. You're getting better. Price is right rules. You did pretty good there.
Fuck yeah.
But yeah, it's again one of those things you can just sit in the sun and enjoy, whether you've got a dock or you're sitting in the backyard like Pauly on the with the pool and everybody's buzzing around. So go give those a try. You know the drill: 100 calories, 0 grams of sugar, 0 carbs. So let's dive into it, Pauly. How the heck are you, buddy?
Wait, Pauly, can I interrupt here?
Doing well.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Our listeners should know that Danny's been complaining that we don't ask him how he's doing. Should we start with Dan today?
Yeah, I was gonna throw it right back to him. Dan, how you doing? I know you had a big weekend this weekend. How you doing?
I'm alive, buddy. We're it's I don't know if you've ever seen like the gif of like the monkey that's like kind of hooked up to the oxygen tank, like laying there, but that's a little bit how we're feeling. It was a heck of a weekend that actually started off with, I've got one of those foldable suitcases, and I've packed the night before.
Dude, I need one of those. What do you have?
They're so nice. I'll have to check the brand. I think I actually got it from like my sister-in-law's dad. And it was like from the Bay, like really nice. So naturally, don't put the suit in it that night because you don't want it to get wrinkled for the big day. Mm-hmm. And early flight the next day, I get to the airport. I'm like, holy shit, it's still hanging on my front door. So
I was gonna say, tell me you forgot it.
Yeah, so forgot the suit, so I had to get picked up and immediately go buy one. But it ended up fitting me way better than the other one, off the rack fit. And it was like $225. You gotta love Men's Warehouse down in the the US.
In the States, so yeah.
Now we got a new fit, but it was such an awesome weekend. Great to catch up with the High Point guys. Some guys I hadn't seen in 7 years, and first time seeing Coach Torpy. So we talked quite a bit. And now we're officially Brown fans as well. I'm a hybrid lacrosse fan now. So yeah, that was a new thing. But I appreciate you guys checking in on me. So I guess we'll toss it back to Pauly.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because I saw one of the pictures you posted on Insta. I saw Torpy in there, so I was gonna ask, but you just kind of answered the question. So it's kind of funny because not like calling him a liar, but he was like in our interview, he was like, "I'm high point to like I die essentially." It's like, see ya.
He's a pretty good He's a pretty good salesman in that sense. But it was what I don't. What is that from The Godfather? Like, I'm going to make him an offer he can't
Yeah,
refuse.
exactly. Like
That man
obviously
got
something
offered
good
something he
happened.
could not refuse. So it's
No, exactly. You figure obviously something good happened for him to leave, but happy for him. So good for him. He gets to, start to kind of revitalize that program. But no, I'm good, man. Just been chilling. I mean, actually, I guess I went a little deep Saturday night, had a birthday party. So yeah, I was mixing in the Springers and the Doc pack that we got. So, yeah, man, went little deep, not too deep. It was perfect. So it was like this is again as you get older, this is like perfect birthday party for like a buddy. Starts at 4, out of the bar by 12. And it's just like still get a good night's sleep. So, but I was
4 to 12 is a shift.
still, yeah, it's still a shift, but
That's
it's not
still a
like
long time.
You get a little
I
older,
know.
you start turning it down a little bit. 4 to 12 banger.
Yeah, you start earlier and end earlier, but no, I was good. Then other than that, man, yeah, not a whole heck of a lot, man. Just enjoying the summer, man. Pool, outside, front yard. I basically like I'm bringing back just like front yard hanging.
I like that. That's so old
Like,
school.
dude, me and the kids like we're out there, no word of a lie. Pretty much like if we don't go do something, we're out in the front yard like 10 hours a day, just
I mean, and
chilling.
you've got a great street for it because it's like kind of tucked away. So
Well, that's exactly it. Like no cars go on there, so they can kind of like freewheel.
yeah,
And so yeah, it's definitely good that way. But yeah, man, we just fucking banging out. But it's hilarious because like the one funny thing about being in the front yard is like Max like potty trained, but like just loves hanging pisses outside. So like
I love
every two
that.
seconds, and it's like most of the time like hey like let's go to the garden. Sometimes it's right like on the front lawn, and then sometimes like he gets like a dribble on his pants. Hates being wet, so pants are off. I'm like, hey, let's go get a new pair of pants. Nope. So then he's just butt naked for like the rest of the day. So he's just buzzing around, just wang out, just flying around. So yeah, man, that's pretty much all I got going on.
Johnny, what about you, buddy?
I don't have anything anything like that to report, but
Yeah,
Donnie's also been running around like
yeah,
that.
exactly.
yeah,
Downtown Toronto with his wang out.
yeah, yeah. Mac and I are brothers in arms, and no, I'm good. Had some good medical progress, so hoping to be
Yeah,
back
let's go.
playing lacrosse pretty soon here. So
Fucking right. Speak
um,
now, buddy.
yeah, that's
I know
pretty
you're
much my news.
briefly. I know you're briefly talking about. So what's like that timeline now? You got to go get cleared, and like I know you're cleared by the doctors, but you got to go get cleared by the team. So you got like some extra stuff to go on, or like
Yeah,
what's
the
that look
biggest thing
like?
is I just got to get like ready now. Like I'm cleared to do basically. They said the kind of my hand is good to go. So, but up until like I haven't been able to lift. I haven't really been able to play lacrosse. So, yeah, ready to put the stationary bike away for a little bit and start lifting like an athlete again. But yeah, that's it for me. Just exciting. Watching games is not fun, and our guys have played really well so far. So just want to get in there and help. It's a pretty common, I think, experience for a lot of us. You don't want to be sitting out. So yeah,
Agreed.
Beauty,
I like
buddy.
it.
It's exciting.
But yeah, I know this week there's not a whole heck of a lot we want to banter about, but we've got a great interview coming up for you guys with Curt Malawsky. Obviously a guy that's got some pretty. I'm always glued to the screen whenever he's got a nice press conference post gamer coming up. Not scared to tell it how it is, so I'm excited to kind of hear you guys hear us pick his brain. I just had a stroke.
he's actually coming into the call right now. So maybe we'll just kick it right to that interview.
All right. This interview is brought to you by Lucky Penny Media. At Lucky Penny Media, we're a full-service marketing company without hefty agency pricing. We understand your brand is everything to you. And when working together, it means everything to us. You're more than just a client, you're a partner and a teammate. My philosophy is simple. You grow, I grow, we grow. So here he is, Curt Malawsky. This Coquitlam native is the current head coach and general manager of the Vancouver Warriors. Played 11 seasons in the NLL, winning the championship with Calgary in 2009. As a coach, he helped lead the Roughnecks to a victory as well in 2019. He was a member of the 2001 Mann Cup winning team and has won 3 Minto Cups as a head coach. Welcome to Back of the Bird, Curt Mouse Malawsky. How are we doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Appreciate you sitting down with us. So what's going on lately? How's life?
It's good. I first just want to say, Paul, congrats on the championship, man. Well earned. It's pretty cool
Thanks,
watching. You guys
brother.
were dominant, man. Well done, man. Not easy to
Appreciate
get,
it, buddy.
as you know.
No, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Pretty crazy season, but yeah, man, all worked out. So thanks, brother.
Awesome. Yeah, I know it's been good out here. I just coaching the Bantam kids this year. I know Team BC for my guys the first year, so we'll do him next year, and then just waiting for my son to get home on Sunday and watch him play some junior.
That's a good little transition again. So sometimes we believe like half the time that our guests like have our show notes because it's like they lead us right to them. But again, first kind of question is what's it been like kind of watching your son play at DU for this year? I mean, obviously for them it's been a pretty cool ride for him, but.
Yeah, super proud of him. I think the biggest thing is that for me was, he made the dean's list in the winter semester, which was like unbelievable. It's not an easy transition. You go down there to play lacrosse, and I'm sure we'll talk about Bobby McMahon later, but he's like, you set yourself up for the next 40 years. So that was one of the biggest things I was proud of. And then they just, when he started there, he wasn't playing a lot when he bought his time, practiced hard, competed hard, and just got an opportunity to get on the floor. And, he's grateful for that. And he loved his teammates and just said it was a special group, and it was tough to see the seniors leave.
Did you coach Matt Brown or what was your relationship with him like when he was kind of playing in BC?
Yeah, I actually coached Brownie the last year junior. We won the Minto Cup. I want to say '04 in New Westminster, and then I played a little bit with him in Arizona for a year, and then he was my roommate, and then we kind of went our separate ways. And he was always, how's my little lefty? How's my little lefty? And then my guy Cody didn't grow for quite some time, so he kind of was off the map for a while. And obviously I've been around the game long enough not to bug people and just let things happen the way they happen. And so they kind of reconnected again with Brownie just before he went down a year ago, January.
That's unreal.
That's a cool little thing.
Yeah, for sure. And like kind of just talking, obviously like, the box across side, I'm sure like he had a huge influence on your son and talking and coaching him and helping him. But like when you talk about him kind of not playing to start the year, like you talking to him about that, like giving him advice or kind of just like letting it take its path. I know it's tough, like obviously you're coaching and all that stuff. But you're also a dad. Like how do you kind of handle that part of it?
Yeah, that's a good question. He one of his real good mentors in field lacrosse was Tyler Pace. I don't think he'd be at Denver without Tyler, and shout out to him. And he had him all the way through PCL, and he played a ton of minutes there, so he was a big part of that. And it was tough for him early. Like I said, he got on the field a little bit. He actually did some really good things on the field, and then he'd get pulled off, and then he'd sit on the sidelines for a while, and then he'd be like that. I had a couple goals, or I had a goal early, a couple assists, and they pulled me off, and I said, man, you got to get used to it. That's just the way life is out there. You're like, you're going to sit on the sidelines if you can't figure out that you're going to go, stand there for a while and get back in. Because the one game I remember watching him, he did good early. They pulled him. He came back in and he just forced it. He thought he had to do more to stay on the field. And I think after that, it was a conversation like, what, you take the minutes that you get, you make the most of them. And that's just kind of way it's going to be. You're a freshman. They'll pull you off whenever they want to pull you off. And then you just be ready to go back out again. So that was a bit of words of wisdom, but he's a pretty level-headed kid. He doesn't get too rattled. And, I was a lot more of a nervous player than he was. He just lets it happen. And, again, just having a good support group. He really got chum along with Lampard and JJ Silstrop. They really took to each other, and they're like-minded and trying to win, so it was good. They helped him a lot.
So I assume, did you coach him quite a bit then growing up through minor?
Yeah, I coached him all the way, right from we started a year early in Minitech, so I had him in Minitech, and then he'd play every second year with Darren Fridge, and I would help Darren Fridge, and then every other year I would have the team. So I had him all the way up in minor. I didn't know a lot about field lacrosse. I don't profess to even know a lot about it now. I love the PLL product, I can say that, but I just he was probably 12, and I was playing hockey, and he was awful. He played on the Double A hockey team. He was bad. He was a good bad skater. He was never going to get any better. So it was like, you know what, if you want to go to school, you want to figure it out, you got to go. Because in BC, our field season is like just piss and rain. It's bad in November and October, and it's terrible out there. But I said, if you want to figure out and go to school, you better start picking up this game. So he picked it up, and he played for Brad Rennie out here. He's a TPC coach, and he went to college. So and then he got on with Pacer, and again, we owe a lot to him.
You obviously, Pat Coyle's coaching the junior A team again in Coquitlam, a fantastic coach, but presumably with a son on the team, you maybe could have had the job if you wanted to. What was the decision to kind of let the coaching go when he got to junior and focus on kind of your younger son? Did you consider coaching him all the way through junior, or what was that kind of thought process like?
You know what? I think it's time for him. Like, he got drafted in Langley, and his rights are still in Langley, so he got traded at the deadline last year, and it was just like kind of let him do his thing. I think it's important you get a different voice. Obviously, we talk after games. I go to as many games as I can. I like to just be there for a resource, and if he's not good, he's going to hear about it, and if he is good, he's going to be okay. So that's kind of how we did things, and I did focus on my little guy, and who knows what happens. I coached a little WLA last year. I didn't like it, not too committed with the guys, so it was tough. So I did think about junior, but I got to put some time in with the family and the little guy, and that's kind of what I did.
I'm interested on, and this is, we'll dive into kind of all of your playing career, but what, you mentioned kind of the lack of commitment in the kind of, senior ranks now. Like, have you noticed quite a bit of change over time with the way that, players have been committed in senior and kind of how there's, I'm speaking from Ontario based, but there's really like one team now. Like, have you noticed quite a bit of change over time with that product?
Yeah, 100%. And let me be clear. I love the WLA. Like, I don't think there's an NLL if we didn't have the MSL on the WLA. Like, I'm a huge
For
fan, and
sure.
I tell my guys to go play in that league. If they ask me, Coach, should I sit out? Should I play? And I said, man, if you're healthy and you want to play, I know at 25, 26 years old, I'd want to play in WLA. So those guys play there, and I love it. We're a huge sponsor of the WLA, so I do like that. But to answer your question, has it changed? Absolutely. I grew up with Eric Cowson and Andy Ogilvy, guys like that, and Jordy Dean, and I was drafted in New Westminster, and when we were there, we never, no one got married in September. Like, no one went to Merritt Music Festival. It just didn't happen. Just the way you didn't do that. You weren't allowed. The wives knew it, and everybody knew it, and everybody was all in. And when in New Westminster, we practice Mondays and Wednesdays, and then we play Thursday night. So I'm talking like fitness before. We were super dedicated, and we're all there. That was the only way that I knew it. So I guess now, being a bit of an old soul that way, you get there and guys are going to go here, they're going to go there, and you're going to play 5 games. You get the schedule, and you don't know who's being there. And being a commitment guy, and I've always taught my kids, like, if you're going to do something, you put your name to it, the best of your ability. And it was tough. It was tough for me in Langley. Great organization. Don't get me wrong. The Buckins are first class. They treat the guys well. Everything was good there in Langley, but I really struggled with the commitment.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's we can kind of dive into your playing career and everything. We like to work through everything from the beginning. So how'd you pick up a stick, and how'd you get into the game?
Yeah, my Uncle Al, from East Vancouver, he was out with his buddies jarring in the back lane, and they were throwing the ball around, and must have been 3 or 4, probably 4 years old, and that was kind of the thing. Like, you weren't going to play soccer, and we played a little soccer just because we didn't have the money to play hockey, but that wasn't a game that they were promoting for us, and it was lacrosse. And so started out in East Vancouver, played a couple of years there, and then I played in Killarney, and after that, my family moved out to Coquitlam. I remember we bought our first house for, it was really cheap. It was probably like $50,000. And I moved to Coquitlam and ended up starting out there. And I think I was my first year novice. And I remember being on a team where like, all the kids that were kind of outsiders, there was like the number one team was the best. Like, we all played together 1, 2, and 3. And I was on the third team with a bunch of guys that really just no one knew, and we weren't very good. And I remember having the blue helmet, and they all had yellow. And I was like, Dad, you can't give me the blue helmet. It's Vancouver. It's embarrassing. You got to give me because we didn't have the money. So he grabbed the spray paint out and spray painted it black because you can play on anything with a black helmet. So that's kind of what we did. And I played all my minor there, and then ended up playing junior in Coquitlam, and then ended up got drafted to New Westminster, and then I kind of bounced around a little bit for there, and I finished off where I started in Coquitlam. So I had a pretty special run with a lot of great guys.
What's who's older, you or Derek?
I'm 3 years older than he is.
Okay, okay. So he just kind of followed your path too, right? Like saw Big Brother play and he started playing. Did you guys get to play a lot together growing up as well?
We didn't really. A little bit in North Shore and senior. We played in
Okay.
Arizona a little bit. So yeah, as growing up, no, it was such an age gap. He might have played up a junior game, but I've been knocked in the head too many times to remember if he did. He probably might have played up a couple games with us when I was my last year junior. So he's a pretty slick player. So he probably did. But yeah, it was more when we got older.
Cool.
So moving into we can kind of jump into the NLL side of things, Donnie, unless there's any questions you kind of have on the junior or senior side. Really, I know there's a lot we got to get through here, but what was the NLL process like for you? Was it like drafted there, or how did that work?
Yeah, again, you guys got some great questions. I remember the MLL was going and I got into the electrical trade at 18 years old. I was delivering parts, and my mom was like, either you can't be at home or you're gonna have to start doing something. So she finds me this easy job where I'm just driving around delivering parts. The next thing you know, I got bored of that, so I ended up getting my apprenticeship. And I was a journeyman by 22. So I was making really good money, and I got up getting in the union. And back in the day, 50 grand was pretty good money for a young
Oh
guy.
yeah.
So, yeah. And I was watching all these guys play. Jason Walder, a lot of them playing. They're down in New York. They're playing in that league, and I'd always go to Rick Mang and I, and don't pigeonhole me with Manger too closely, but Manger and I would go down Sunday nights to the pub and watch the games down in Burnaby, and I really wanted to be in that league, but I was working, and I ended up my mom was like, God bless her soul. And she was like, keep working. And I bought a house when I was 22 years old. I got into the market then, and I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for her. And then I just, my jobs changed a little bit from one job site to another company. And I was 27 years old, and I ended up getting drafted by Paul Day to Rochester. And I ended up playing 6 years with Paul, and some of the six best years. A lot of heartbreak there because we got beat by the Rock all the time. But man, what a great place to play. Great fan base. I met a lot of people, great friends, great teammates, and still to this day, I cherish my time in Roch. And then ended up in Vancouver. Then they folded, and then I want to say that I ended up. Then after that, I was in San Jose for a bit. Started the season real bad, 2-6. It was funny. I had a little story about that. It was, my coach Walt Christensen asked me. He said, I was an older guy. I was 34 years old, and you're just kind of hanging on. You still had some. I played till 39, but I still, you're still kind of. I don't say you're protecting your job, but you want to make sure you're doing good every night. And I remember he came up to me in training camp, and he said, "Who do you think's better on the right side? Is it John Olsen or is it Jeff Sawicki?" And I won't lie to you guys. Inside of me, I'm like, if I want to keep my job here, I said Johnny Olsen. I said Johnny. But I've been brought up with a lot of integrity, and I was a team guy through and through. I just wanted to win, so I gave him the truth. I said Jeff Sawicki's definitely better. And before you knew it, after 6 games, I was 2-6. The next thing you know, I was getting shipped out, and Wick had my spot. So, but yeah, I ended up there, and then I ended up. Then Hammer picked me up, which was nice in Arizona. And that's where I got to play with your brother Dan, and we had a really good team. We had a good run to the final. Didn't quite get her done, but again, a lot of really good friends there, and got to play. Really got to meet Bob McMahon, which is, I'm sure we'll talk about him later. But and then I ended up in Calgary, and got to play for the great Terry Sanderson and Troy Cordingley, and that's where I kind of finished off with the championship. So very, very great run, and very grateful for a lot of people I played with and the opportunities I had.
And that's not a bad way to cap things off too. That's got to feel pretty good.
I had my family there, my young son there. My dad was there. My mom was there. It was a really special time. And, I knew I was done. I handed all my equipment away. And I'll never forget Andrew McBride had, the Ray Bork kind of idea. They handed me the trophy. And I fought so hard in that league and came so close so many times. So, just to have that admiration, that respect of my teammates was just capped it all off.
So
That's unreal.
How old were you when you retired?
39.
So that's
Yeah,
quite the run, man. I mean, I know how my body feels right now. How was the body holding up at that time?
it was tough. You'd be doing acupuncture. I was thinking about the other day when I was talking to my old physio and we're talking about the young guys getting fit for the season. And so we'd always go 10 weeks before, 10 to 12 weeks before, and I'd be in the pool. I work with Randy Celebrini, Rick Celebrini. He's a pretty high up guy in basketball and stuff. I worked with the Celebrinis. We actually started what we called the on-field clinic where you trained out in the field. And I was down at Livingston Field, so I trained all the time. Heart rate monitor, a lot of concussions that we had to get through. But the last year, I think I was going physio Tuesday, Thursday. I do an on-field clinic every Wednesday, and then a ton of ice baths. The guys chirp me about my warm up. But your brother Dan used to tell me all the time about my little hot shot shots. We'd be running all the flow drills, and I'd be up doing hot shot shots. And they'd always say, "Hey, when the power play comes, here comes Smells." But I like to think I didn't come down with a 5-on-5 started. So, but yeah, I was hanging on, and again, I didn't play a lot of minutes. I was playing with Tracy Clussy, and Scotty Ranger and Caleb Toth and Shooter and Dobes. So I didn't have to do a lot, and Shatler came up front. So it was nice to hang on and contribute a bit and get the win.
Not to
100%.
not to bring up some not so fun memories, but on those Nighthawks team, you were part of some pretty famous games in Maple Leaf Gardens. I believe the last game at Maple Leaf Gardens was against the Nighthawks. I think a lot of folks have kind of heard that story from the Rock perspective, but what do you kind of remember about that game and just the atmosphere in the building that day?
It was just insane. It was like, you play Eastern Summer Lacrosse. It was hot in there. It was really hot, and the people are like they're right on top of you.
Yeah.
You're hearing, they're right behind you. You're hearing everything they're saying. And the Rock had a phenomenal team and very well coached. And I remember Casey Powell early in the game just getting his head taken off by Pauly and trying to set the tone. But he was a tough American kid, man. He kept on coming, and then Junior just went off. We got down and Junior went off, and we tied it, and then that famous play by Caleb Toth, and it was shock. I was just utter shock. I thought this was our year, this was our chance, and we were so close, and that was really devastating. It took a long time to get over that one, and yeah, it was a great battle, and what a game for the sport. What a way to sign off to to Maple Leaf Gardens.
Yeah, and pretty much every like the vast majority of head coaches in our league now are in that game. Pretty much, which is pretty cool
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it was a special group of guys in there. We had Dewey Jacobs playing with us, and Bomber, and we had Thule and Net, and funny full circle. Ended up drafting his son in my goal. So yeah, and Colin Doyle, like one of my best teammates I've ever played with in my life, was on the other side of it, and Danny Stroop, a good family friend. We won in '01 together. So yeah, there was some pretty special group of guys in that game, and you can sit back looking at it was again humbled and just to be a part of it.
And then just like I guess going right into like the coaching aspect, like as you're getting old in your career, like was that something you always kind of thought you were gonna do, getting the coaching and stuff like that?
Yeah, I was no church mouse. Could make the pun there, but I would drink till like the boys would always we all go back to the hotels and we go and drink and have a good time. I'd be there till 4 in the morning with the guys and picking brains of guys. Like I would sit with Terry Sanderson. I would sit with the older guys in the National Lacrosse League, and I was fascinated. Like there's Bobby taught me, and he's not wrong. There's Western good and there's Eastern good. And I fully, again, I'm a Western guy. I was born in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, but I was out here my whole life playing, but it's a different level in Ontario. And I learned so much from those guys just about the game of lacrosse. And I would always gravitate to the guys that would want to talk shop or teach me something. And I was always hanging around, you always see me hanging around Buff McCready, the older guys that have been around the league for so long. And I, always got to know them and just kind of pick their brain and ask them questions. And I'm addicted, fascinated with the game of lacrosse. And it's always been a passion. So that was kind of that was kind of what I would do. I'd rather talk shop than, to go play a game of euchre. So it's just kind of how it went. But yeah, I think early on, to answer your question, Paul, I think, yeah, it was definitely in my blood, and that's what I wanted to do.
Pauly, just to kind of connect some dots there for our listeners as well. Coach, you won the Minto in, I think, 2004 as a coach, and then it wasn't until 2009 that you won as a player. So you were still playing for a while after you were coaching in the summertime too. So you got into it, earlier than some others did.
I did. I started coaching when I was 22 years old at Coquitlam. No one wanted the midget B team, and I ended up taking that team. And we were just kind of doing that as we went along, and just loved giving back. I was, again, talking, being around a lot of these guys, paying it forward, and I do honestly really believe that we have an obligation to continue on what they started, and just at that young age, and then getting an opportunity to still play, and which was kind of neat because you do as I say, not as I do idea, and I would get gum from my guys because I was so slow getting off the floor, and we had a lot of fun with the Burnaby boys. But I guess you can kind of show them what it takes to get to the middle floor and the other side of things too. So yeah, it was kind of neat that I had the best of both worlds.
That's the real. I didn't realize you started coaching that early. But just speaking of those late nights, we had one of those late nights. I don't know if you remember. I want to say when I was younger, when my junior hockey career or season would end, I'd go watch Dan. I think the one time we were in Philly, I think it was, I think you guys had an afternoon game, and then we ended up in the hotel room, like you said, 3, 4 in the morning. It was me, my brother, you, maybe Brownie, but it was and kind of same thing. It's as a young guy, you don't realize, but you're kind of just sitting there, and everyone's just shooting the shit about whatever lacrosse and stuff like that. But I was part of those. I was part of one of those late nights way back in the day.
That's awesome. I thought you were going to bring up the time when I was with your brother. We're doing that. We're all talking shop, and he was in bed. And Fergie, the ref,
Oh
he
yeah,
was
dude!
he was.
Dude, it's just
Were
the
you in the
best
room
story.
that day? Were you
Oh
in the
yeah,
room? And
yeah.
Dan was laying in bed, and we were going on and in his room. And Dan's not a guy that's going to stay up till 4 in the morning talking shop. But Fergie wouldn't stop, and finally Dan's like, "Fergie, shut up!" He's standing at the foot of the bed, starts gumming him, and Dan's whatever size 14-foot comes out and boots him right in the chest. I'll never
Oh yeah,
forget because the bed is so close to the TV, flying against the wall goes
oh
Fergie, and
yeah.
it was so good. And I would be like every time, remember when Dan kicked you in the chest, Fergie? Just shakes his head. So
Oh
good.
yeah. Dude, I was there, man. That was one of the
You might have been
funniest
there,
things
right?
ever.
Yeah.
I was there, 100%. I was in the room. It was
Yeah.
one of the funniest things ever. It's so funny.
It was
That's
good.
awesome. I mean, you've kind of mentioned it a few different times, but maybe it's a good time to kind of dive into your relationship with Bobby McMahon and kind of how that's progressed, how that started, and then kind of what he's meant to you over both playing and coaching career.
Wow. He's like a father to me. He's taught me so much about lacrosse, and the kids, and life in general. Like he's the most intelligent guy that I've been around in a game of lacrosse. And I get people that say, "Oh, he's just standing by your side." Who's that guy? And I'm like, he's like the guru, the genius of the game. He's so well prepared. He can articulate things better than anybody that I know. His critical thinking is amazing. He understands the game, a bit better than might be better than anyone that I've ever met. And he's such a calming influence. But then when he needs to get at you, he gets at you. And he's I wouldn't be on an NLL bench in the capacity that I am. I can honestly tell you guys, and it's not blowing smoke up anyone's butt. If it wasn't for Bob McMahon, he's a guy that he's a legend in my mind, and I owe him so much. And I'm so fortunate with his loyalty when I ended up going to Vancouver that he came along with me. And I can't speak. I could spend the whole 10 episodes talking about Bobby, but very special person, very great lacrosse mind. And he's taught me all the analogies that you hear me say. Those are from Bobby. Bobby's taught me just so much. And I'm so thankful and grateful to have him in my life.
That's great, man. Well, and I think we'll kind of going back into the coaching side of it. How did Donnie's got part in the notes here just about the Burnaby dynasty. Like, how did that start to roll in, and how did things come together there?
Well, that was a story in itself. Like I was coaching Coquitlam Minor, and I really wanted to coach. And I want to say Jake Elliott, and there was a Wilson guy that was coaching the junior team in Coquitlam, and I really wanted that team. Really bad, and I just, I applied for it, asked if I could move up the ladder. I had the midget A1 team. We played a little bit of intermediate, which is like in BC, it's your first and second year you play intermediate, and then third, fourth, and fifth you play junior. Not like Ontario. It's changed now in BC. The good kids play 5 years, but I wanted to coach that team, and they weren't very good, and they didn't want to make a coaching change. And here's this dynasty in Burnaby that's won Minto Cup after Minto Cup. And someone says, you know what, Paul Delmonte might not be coaching full time this year. Most you'd be interested in coaching. I'm like, what? Really? The Burnaby Lakers? Like, I never thought. And the great Jack Crosby, and I remember sitting with Rainbow Spagnolo and Doc Locke. We went in a room in the bottom of Copeland Arena in the meeting room, and they offered me an opportunity to coach there. And I remember Paul was making pretty good money, and I was expecting to get paid. I just would want to be on the bench. And they're like, we're not giving you Del Monte my money. We'll give you $2,500. And that was like huge money for me back then. And I was like, I'm sold. I would have done it for free to coach that team. And, there's a lot of the recruiting was done already. We had Panicha and Craig Conn was already there. And, we had a really, really good team. And, that year we went along, and I remember Paul Del Monte kind of came back. We started doing really well, and he kind of came back, and I was like, and it was tough for me because one day I walked in our dressing room and Paul had the whiteboard out, and he was teaching my defense, and I'm like, well, I took this job because you weren't going to be here, and we're 10-0. You're not coming back. And to be honest, guys, and in a respectful way, I said, Paul, you're not. You can help, but you can't. You're not on the bench. You're not in the dressing room, and it was tough for Paul. And I remember Doc Locke didn't talk to me for a while because they were so close. But I was always taught, there's one voice, and obviously, I've grown so much as a coach, but there's one voice, and that's kind of how I had to go. And then Paul was great. He was in my ear all through the Minto Cup that year. He sat up in the stands, and he would text me after games, and I'd call him, and he gave me a lot of great mentorship there. But I turned down Coquitlam, gave me an opportunity in Burnaby, and then I remember the next year we won it in Edmonton, and that was a story and a half. But I remember trying to recruit another guy, and someone said Jamie Lincoln. So I was like, oh, who's this Jamie Lincoln? I remember meeting with his dad up in Kitchener and at the McDonald's, and he said, oh, I could bring another guy with you. And I said, who's that guy? It was kids from Elora, but I think Orangeville's going after him. I'm like, who's that? Dane Doby. I'm like, oh, really? And so I went after Lincoln and ended up getting Doby as a throw-in. And wow, man, what a throw-in.
Not a bad throw-in, yeah.
Throw-in, yeah. It was pretty cool. So, yeah, it was nice coaching in Burnaby. And then we won that Minto Cup. That I don't know if you guys ever heard the story, but we ended up playing. We went through the round robin, and we played. It was a best of three at the final, and we played the first game against Six Nations, and we ended up going to overtime. They had Sid Smith, Cody. They were a really good team, and we ended up going to overtime with them. And the ref clearly, Paul Ravery was the ref. And he clearly came over and said to me, he goes, Mouse, listen, it's not sudden death. It's regular time, 10 minutes. And I said, okay, no problem. So as the tournament went on, Six Nations started bringing more and more people. Our hotel said I had the orange shirts hanging over the edge and the Arrows jerseys. And we're on like the big like cylinder hotel like back in the day in Syracuse. And then I remember like watching someone else play and being at the urinal, and I'd say to some guy, I'd be like, what are you doing here? And he got the orange shirt from Six Nations. No, I'm just here to cheer him on. And all the guys from the Reds started coming from Edmonton. So we're in overtime, and they score. And it actually was game two. They scored in overtime to think they won the Minto Cup. They won the first one, and then and we were playing for the Minto Cup if we would have lost. They score in overtime. They dump their bench. They're crying. They're losing their mind. They're celebrating. They think it's over. And I'm sitting on the bench with my guys, and I'm like, it's not over. Some of them coaching them. My guys are crying because they thought we lost. And I'm like, it was absolutely chaos. So they get everything all picked up, and they pick everything up, and they realize that, hey, the game's not over. Ravery comes over the bench, and I said, Ravery, that's the late game, man. He looks at me, he looks around at all. Oh, so you're not getting that one tonight. So we end up going out, and we won the game in overtime. And this is a true story, and you could probably ask Paul Ravery. We end up playing. So we win the game. The hotel that the refs are at, and I'm not saying it got burnt to the ground, but it got set on fire. They whoever went over there honestly set their hotel on fire, and it was Ravery, Pepper, and another referee, and they went home. They said, "We're going home. We're not staying here because our life's in danger." And I'm not saying who set the thing on fire. I have no idea, but it's 1-1, and those guys, the refs, went home. So I'm like, now what are we doing? It's 1-1. We got to play the next night, and the fans are like going like. The fans are still there. They're pissed. They grab 2 or 3 Alberta guys and say, you guys want these guys to ref the game? We're like, all right, that's all we got. We end up winning 8-4 and winning it all. So pretty wild story.
Well, hey, we're still figuring out the OT rules out here still this
Yeah,
week. So, yeah.
another thing that yeah, we were just talking about that before, like what was it? Who was it? Burlington and Kitchener, I think.
Burlington
Yeah,
and
just had the
Kitchener,
game and
yeah.
they didn't know which way it should have gone or how the overtime should have worked. It ended in a tie. It shouldn't have. Like, it's that's what makes our game unique. Is always keeps everyone on their toes. But I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was just a coincidental electrical fire that night at
Oh
the.
yeah,
At
100%.
the hotel.
It might have been one of your jobs, Most. Maybe you do the electrical.
Real bad. Yeah, the old knob and tube for sure.
So moving kind of forward throughout the years, like, you move into that 2010 Coquitlam team, and a nice little. You're talking about throw-in players to pull in from the east. I mean, Mark Matthews is a guy that jumps across to that team. What was that team like?
That was Matt Brown on Matthews. I had never heard of Mark Matthews before, and he went to Denver. I might have been a freshman that year, and Brownie's like, "Mouse, I got a guy for you," and I'm like, "Who's that?" And he said, "It's Mark Matthews." So I talked to Bobby, and he's like, "Yeah, he's the big kid from Whitby," and I don't know if he hadn't really fully arrived. I don't know. Maybe he did. You guys would know better at the young age, but for a Western guy, we didn't really know who he was, and I just got to Denver, and then having him, and I already knew the 91s with Churchy and Benny McIntosh, and we traded for Lowen and Billick, and we brought a lot of good players in. Johnny Thompson from Orangeville, we ended up getting, and I tried to get Brock Sorensen, and I remember calling Orangeville over and over again for Brock Sorensen, and because he was with Vitarelli, and Vitarelli wouldn't talk to me. To this day, I don't think he talks to anybody. If any Western team that asks for an Eastern guy, he just hangs up the phone, and he won't do it, which is great for the Eastern guys. But he ended up going there, and I remember phoning Cleveland over and over again for Sorensen. And finally, his wife's like, "Would you stop phoning our house? We're not trading to Sorensen." Because they were going, and we met them in the Minto Cup, and it would have looked really bad, even though Brock wanted to come out. But we ended up playing that real good Orangeville team. But having Matthews and Church, and like I said, Benny McIntosh, and I had the Cornwall brothers there. And, Danny Lewis wasn't a great goalie, but he was good enough to get it done for us. But what a special Dinsdale, what a special group of guys I was fortunate to be around.
You got the whole Saskatchewan Rush roster. It sounds like that was kind of rolling in deep there. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was cool. Really good.
That's not bad.
I wanted to ask, real quick, correct me if I got the years off a little bit, but we had Garrett Billings on recently talking about his time in Burnaby. What do you remember from coaching him? Obviously, kind of a superstar. You mentioned Dobie and Matthews, but, you coached a lot of great players in that era. Are my dates right? And what do you remember about coaching him?
Yeah, I had Billy. I had Billy in 04 and 05. And I even had him in 06 too, when we ended up losing. I might even had him for 4 of his years. I remember talking to his dad back in Six Nations. I think we lost in 07 back there. My dates might be a little bit off, but I'm pretty sure we won 2, and then either lost to Nations and lost again at home. But I had Billy for 4 years. I think I had him for, and yeah, he was one of the best Western junior A lacrosse players that we've ever had out here. Pure as the day is long, and we always try to tell people that they really play the good overhand stick at your ear. But he was always a guy that played, everything was up here for him. He wasn't shooting off the shoe tips. He shot the ball really well, and he'd go to the middle. He'd go to the middle too. He wouldn't play a ton of inside game, but could he shoot the ball? Could he distribute the ball? And he would score close to 50 goals a year, and he was a pleasure. He was really, the other thing about him is he's really smart, very, very intelligent lacrosse player, had a very high IQ. I know he coached a little bit in Oakville, and he's got his young son over here in Delta, and he's going to be a part of BC lacrosse for a long time, which is really good. So yeah, he was a pleasure, and I got to know his dad Al quite a bit too. So good family.
It's great. Well, I mean, and we can kind of moving into the NLL side of things. I kind of want to touch on we've had a few different guys on from that 2019 run with Calgary, kind of with Danny Mack and Dobes, and talking about everything that happened that year and how you guys got there. But maybe walk us through kind of what you remember about the timeline of that year, and then kind of working into the playoffs, and then ultimately winning.
Yeah, if what I remembered, I think we're around 500 the middle of the season, we struggled quite a bit, and I remember winning a real big game in Toronto, and I remember I don't to go up to Dobie, to go up to Dixon to say, hey, I need you to put the team on your back tonight. I never did that a lot with guys because it was always a team thing for me. But I remember going to Del Bianco and asking him, I was saying, and he was a pretty young guy at the time, and I was like, Delbs, we were like 4-5, and I said, this is the night I need you tonight. And he was just absolutely outstanding. And we get to 5-5 and a 5-5, and then Jesse was hurt most of the year, and then we end up getting Jesse back. And I want to say we went on like a 7-0 run to finish the last bit of the season, and we were just on fire. Our guys played so well together, and we had such a good team off the floor, as most championship teams are, and they just worked so hard. And I remember that year, I don't know if the guys remember, but we didn't. We had Wesley Berg. Things went sideways in Calgary with Wesley, and he wanted to go play in San Diego. And I was close with Wes. I didn't mention him on the 210 team, but he played as an 18-year-old, and I have so much time for Wesley Berg. He's an outstanding lacrosse player, and he's always texts us because my son's going to Denver now. Just a good person overall. And I remember things went sideways with Bordy, and he wanted to be traded. And Patty Merrill, I won with him in 2001 in the Mann Cup, so we're good friends. And he called and asked about him, and he said, can you give it? We want Bergie really bad. And I'm like, well, Patty, it's lining up that we're going to play in the playoffs. Like, I can't give him to you. Now Patty tries to trick me and gives me the old, well, just tell your guys it's not about you guys. It's not about us. It's about what you got in your room. It'll be fine. And I'm like, man, I can't do it. And I remember talking on the phone with Bergie, and he was like, Mouse, can you trade me? I said, I'll move you, but I'm not moving you to San Diego. If someone wants a 3-way deal to get you over there, I will. So I tried, and it wasn't going to work. And I ended up having to hold him out. And I think Bergie to this day was pretty pissed about it. But I think he understood, because we ended up going down there and playing them in their rink, and we beat them 12-11. We were down, I think, by 4 in the fourth quarter, and we came back and we won it. And if they would have had Bergie, just the player that he is, I don't know if we would have got that done. And then we won that one, and then we came home, and Delbs, I think we won 8-4, and Delbs was just lights out, crazy. And we won that one, and then we were going to Buffalo, and that was the Big Bad Bandits. You had to go to their rink, and I've always been a coach of, like, I always think, I always give the respect to my opponents that they're, I don't say that they're better than what they are, but I always hold them in such a high regard that they're better than we are. And that's kind of how I prepare. And I thought, I would never say that to my guys that I didn't believe we would win. And I did believe we could win, but I knew that was going to be a tall task, because that was just an outstanding team. They had Matt Vincent won, they won multiple championships with you, Paul, and he knew what it took. And I got this young whippersnapper in net that doesn't know any different, and he's so strong between the ears. And we end up 2-0. And a funny thing, and to this day I just won't do it. When they bring the cameras into the rooms for the coaches, I won't do that. I just, like, for me, I want to be who I am. And I also don't want to talk. I don't want to put on something that I'm not. My guys believe in who I am and what I believe in. I'm not going to do anything with the camera, and I don't like it there. And I also, but where I'm going with it is Tavares got on the camera after one of their games, and he went on about his game plan in the room. Like, we seal slips and do this and that. I grabbed so much off of that, and I just sat there, and we were like, wow. And believe it or not, he gave me a real, maybe because the camera's there, and I love JT. Maybe he's trying to be smart, but it was good for us. So we got quite a bit off of it, and we end up going there, and it was 2-0 at the end of the half, and we just grounded out, and we end up getting, Todd LeBranch made a big call with a crease. We came down the other way, we scored, and then Dobbs was real good, and Dobbs didn't have any goals going into the second half, and I think he had 4, and Jesse had a couple, and I think we ended up beating him 9-6, 9-7, and then brought it back home. And I'd never seen the Dome like I seen that in the last game, and it was what an exciting game, back and forth. I remember Smallsy was burning us a lot, and Evie had a game going, and we just kept on hanging around, and Dobe scored that phenomenal. Well, remember that phenomenal play when Dobbs threw the bomb from one end to the other. And I don't know how Dobbs caught it. And just the ability that he scores in tight, that short side, far side back over top of Vince. And, they thought it was crease, and they called it a goal. And, we thought it was over, and they called timeout. They go down, and Small rips one cheese. And it ripped my heart out. I was like, oh no, because Dobie couldn't walk. His ankle was so bad. We had so many guys chopped up. And going back to Buff, like we needed one. That's all we needed out of that rink, one. and I wasn't sure if we were going to get two, and we got the one we needed. So we got to overtime, and it went back and forth, and I'll never forget looking to my right, and next thing you know, Dane Smith's got an empty net. Our guy's out, and the next thing you know, Courier jumps in the way and makes the save, and I'm like, I have no idea how that went where it went. And we banged a timeout just because it was so scrambled. I think just to let the heart rest a little bit, and we came out with just a little set play, and it was broken. And we always run a play progression. You watch it, they run it to nauseum, and our guys just a lot of teams run it now. They call it different things, flex and whatnot. And our guys just went right back into it. And low and through to King. He came over top, and the snoo sat in the hole on Dixon, and Dutchy just corked it. And man, what a feeling! And that was a night. And I think guys, for me, that night was the most special thing for me was being appreciated that for guys being a dad, and you being a dad, guys. And I'm not sure, Danny, if you are, but I know Paul, you are, and just having like seeing the dads and the kids celebrate, like the fathers just crying in their son's arms. It was just like that was what it was all about. Just the elation. If you watch that tape where you hear Callie's his dad squealing, and he's just like so proud of his son, and sitting there with Zach Courier's family in the coach's room after, and just seeing these dads just so proud of their kids. And that would be one of the biggest highlights of my whole thing. And as a coach, it's relief. All that hard work, it's relief. But just seeing those kids celebrate with their families and wives, and Dobie have little Quinn on in his arms when he goes up against the MVP. Man, that's what it's all about for me, coaching. It just was so special.
I think one thing too that I remember from that was that sticks out to me, and it's more kind of growing up and seeing Bobby McMahon around the rinks and everything, and then having the relationship that I do with Danny Mac and hearing all about him, and he's got the same things to say that you do. Like for you, that's got to be a pretty cool feeling to kind of see him lifting the trophy right beside you as well, with being as close as you guys are, and as much as you've spoken about that relationship.
It was so special. The guys waited for Bobby. I think he was the first one to grab it, and he's got his wigs all over the place, and his shirt's hanging out, coffee stains, and the glasses, you can't even see them. There's so many fingerprints on them. And, he's such a humble guy. He didn't want to hold it. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's a memory that a lot of us will cherish for a long time. And you look at him, he hides himself in the back of the photo, but he probably wouldn't even tell you that it meant the world to him. But, we knew it did. And it's good grab there, Danny. It was a special time for all of us there, especially Bobby.
That's great. Well, I mean, even we've had you for a while here. We'll fast forward into the transition for you into coming to Vancouver. So what was that whole process like in terms of weighing your options, making that decision to go back there, and then how you felt it's gone so far?
I'd say that was my toughest lacrosse decision I ever had to make. I loved it in Calgary. I took great pride in it. As a player, you get bounced around quite a bit, but as a coach, I'd been there. I ended up for 15 years, and I loved every minute of it. The organization was first class. John Bean, Mike Moore, Mike Board, and all the support staff, Chris Norton, and Neil Herzog. There were so many of the people that went through there, and we were, Kenny King before he passed away. We were just. It was a great organization to be a part of. The fan base was amazing. The players were amazing. The win as a player, and then win as a coach, and it was just red was in my blood. And I remember telling my young guy that I was leaving to go to Vancouver, and he just started crying. He's 10 years old, and he's like, "Dad, they're shit. You better not go there. They're shit." I just never forget it. And he's just bawling, and he literally for like 3 days wouldn't talk to me, and it was so hard. I had all the intentions of the world to go back there. Bordy and I talked at length, and things it just didn't end up working out. And then I ended up hitting free agency, and I met with Dax Aquilini, and I met them for the first time, and that these guys are like. In perspective, like the Leafs, like the owners of the Leafs, this is the owners of the Vancouver Canucks. And, in Calgary, I didn't get to meet the owners in Calgary. I met Kenny King, and obviously John Bean was always by our side, and he was such a great mentor there too. But I never met Murray Edwards or any of the owners ever. And, when I first got called by Dax, we came over and we met, and, he presented me an offer, and then he said, I'd really like you to come meet the family. And I remember going down to GM Place, and I'm shaking. I got my electrical clothes on, and I'm like, oh, what do I wear here? Do I show them the blue collar guy that I am, or do I put some clothes on? And I call Bobby, of course. And Bobby's like, just throw a collared shirt on, a pair of slacks. So I'm in the parking lot, fixing my hair and trying to get my slacks on outside the rink, and I go in, and I walk in, and there's Francesco Aquilini, which is the owner, which is the guy, hands-on Canucks guy, and then Roberto, which is my boss, Dax Aquilini's dad, and then the grandfather, Luigi. He's like 90-something years old, and Michael Doyle, the president of the Canucks. And I'm sitting in there, and I'm like, how does this not so skinny anymore, big-nosed kid from Coquitlam sit in a room with these people? I was like totally overwhelmed and just so appreciative and so humble just to be sitting at the table with them. And I remember that the grandfather was just, you got to come here. You got to come here. You're going to win. He was just a broken Italian. I married an Italian girl, and my father-in-law reminded me so much of my father-in-law. And it's funny later that when they did hire me, the grandfather said, he said, "Did you hire that kid?" Guidance called the kid. Hire that guy, and Dax says, "Yeah." He says, "Good, big nose, hard worker." That's what he said. So, I don't know. It must be an Italian thing. You got a big hooder, you're a hard worker. So he told me that story. I thought it was pretty cool. But what I really liked, it was just to have those people in that room, and they brought 3 generations. And they were like, I said, it's a huge commitment for me leaving Calgary. And he says, once you come here, they asked me a question. They said, what's your 17-year plan? And I was like, what are you talking about? 17-year plan? And all they were trying to tell me is that, like, once you're here, and if you commit to working and be a part of this, and you're a hard worker, we're not looking at your 5-year deal. We're looking at you long term, and being a part of this organization, being a part of that family. And, for the people that at that level, running these NHL billion-dollar teams, and to have Michael Doyle there, the president, and all those people just say this, it's okay, and just really genuinely talk about family. You guys had been like the Michael Doyle guy had been there for like 15 years or something like that. So there's no turnover. So it tells you that that's a pretty close knit group. And so from that, I knew that it was the right decision. To be there, just the conversations we had, and just the direction that they wanted to go with the team. And for me, growing the game of lacrosse in BC was huge. I talked about paying it forward. I learned from so many great people, like I said earlier, and here's an opportunity for me to be in a position where I can grow the game, where I can kind of, with a lot of great people that we've surrounded ourselves with in Vancouver, that can really push the game of lacrosse in Vancouver, and reach out to all these places and all these initiatives that I learned, with the Calgary organization, going to that, we would go to the hospitals, we would interact with the First Nations, all the little things that they taught me there. We were able to bring that to Vancouver and just be inclusive, and have Coach Curt's Corner and stuff like that, and just be around, accessible to the fans. And our guys are really big in the community. We get to all the tournaments. We try to answer all the requests we get from the fans, and all the feedback. And I think that was, for me, I knew that being a guy that's been fortunate enough to win quite a bit, that was the hardest part, was leaving such a winning tradition and such a great group of men that were poised to win for a long time, and literally some of my best friends, to come home. And it's like, you just sit back and you think, all the people that kind of were ahead of you, the Les Wingroves out here, the Billy Monroes that I've been around out here, that taught me the way. And it's like, you know what, here's an opportunity. And I'm fortunate enough to be in this position. It was hard, but I'm like, you know what, I'm up for the challenge. I want to do it. And it hasn't been easy, but it's been very rewarding.
It kind of sounds like you went into the meeting with the Godfather, so I don't think you were like not going to be able to take that job. I think you were going to have cement shoes if you didn't take the job, by the sounds of it.
100%. The old man was just, man, a few words. And he came right from the farms. Aquilini's owned the farms out here in Pitt Meadows, and he had his dirty jeans on and his plaid shirt. And Roberto was great. And Francesco, the Canucks guy, just said, "You need to win. You need to win. You need to win." So you're right. It was cool, but it was intimidating at the same time.
Yeah. You're gonna get home, and if you decided to sleep on it that night, there'd be like the old horse's head in your bed with you or something. Right? Yeah. Okay, I think I might want to take this gig. I think the choice has been made here.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, I know we've kind of worked through quite a bit, but more so just kind of some rapid fire stuff to finish off, the rest of the interview here. What for us, this was one we meant to ask early, but where'd the nickname Mouse come from?
Patty McCready. I was called Losky when I was in junior, but Patty McCready came out from Ontario, St. Catharines, played with me in North Shore, and Malawsky, Malawsky just kind of rhymed, and he was the first guy to call me that name in Lonsdale Arena, and would have been in '97. So yeah, it was Patty McCready.
Wow.
Love that. That's a nice claim to fame for Patty. That's great.
Yeah.
Totally, totally.
The next one. What would you say? Let's go. We'll go one defensive and one offensive player that sticks out to you as the best that you've seen play.
Should have prepared for this one. I gotta go
that you've played against.
Yeah, maybe we'll say that. Yeah, that you played against, that you were on the floor with.
Yeah, played against JT. I never got the chance to play. I played with JT briefly, Team Canada, but I would say John Tavares. I would have went with my juniors and my doilies on my team, but I think the guy that I played against would have been him. And I think the toughest defenseman, one of the best to ever play, and I got to go back in my generation. It's got to be Andy Ogilvy for me. He could do it all. He could score. Jordy Dean gets hurt, and next thing you know, Ogie's the one carrying the offense in New Westminster, and he could fight, and what a teammate. So I go Ogie and JT.
I feel like for Ogilvy too, like there's just such a myth about that guy that no one now ever really got to see him play. Like he played before cameras and like everyone really got to like truly see who that guy was. Like, but everyone you talk to like just says he was the absolute like biggest beast ever.
You nailed it. It was well before the social media era, obviously, and I remember he coached. I remember he coached me in Coquitlam near the end of my career when I was about 39. I played my last year at Coquitlam Senior, and he coached us. And he showed up to practice with jeans on. I remember this young guy and go, "What is this idiot coach doing with jeans on?" I said, "Really, bud?" I said, he can wear jeans whatever he wants, but it was he was a beast, man. And like I said, I got to just clarify. I would have, guys, if you wouldn't have said off my team, I would have went with Doily. Doily's my guy.
Yeah. We like to ask guys this too. Was there any and obviously you played for some time too. Like, was there any specific piece of equipment you had forever, or some sort of like a weird thing that you would wear, or something you couldn't, get rid of, or anything like that?
I don't know if you guys remember this. You could probably, Pauly might be able to remember it because you might have been playing around when I was still going. You would have been. I had the cage, but what I did was I had the ear flaps. Because I got the bad ears, right? So believe it or not, guys take your head off and you cut my ears up. But the biggest thing is because of the beak. So the mask was always so close, and I didn't want it. I didn't want the Jason Walder way out there, like the helmet wheelie. So what I did, I had to have the mask, and the hooder was about like this far, guys, from my face. So I went to like my grade 9 football guy, and I said, I want one of those chin cups, those real foam, like real tough chin cups. And I put my chin strap on. I have a real good snap, and you could punch me in the face, cross check me right here, and it wouldn't go into my face. And I wore that till I was done, but I got gummed so bad. But you know what? You grow up with this thing, you hurt back pretty good. So I was.
That's amazing.
I love it. And then I guess last one, and then we'll see if the guys have anything else. But for you, what was there? Did you wear the same jersey number throughout? All the time. You tried to wear it most of the time, and what was it? And how did you get inspired by that number?
Yeah, it was number 11. I ended up watching the senior A. Like when we grew up as kids, I chirped the soccer, but I played soccer. We didn't have a lot of money, so we ended up going up to Coquitlam Arena. We didn't live too far from there, so we'd go up every Saturday night. And I remember my mom would be like, she'd make me. It was embarrassing, but at the end of the day, she did whatever she did. I loved her so much for it. She'd make us popcorn, and in the air popcorn machine, and me and my brother go up there with the brown paper bags under our jackets, so we didn't get caught. And then and we would scrap for balls for pops. And the ball would go. We want to be there for the warm up, and we trying to get balls, and we bring balls with us so we could get a pop and eat our popcorn. And we'd go up every Saturday night and watch. And my mom would drop us off at the rink, and we'd go up there. And that's where I kind of fell in love with a guy named Dougie Manning. He was number 11 for the senior Adnax, and he was a phenomenal lacrosse player, and he wore number 11. And then I believe Jimmy V wore that for a little bit. I seen him wear number 11. I was a big Jimmy Veltman fan too. And then he played out there. I know he's 32, but I think there was a time he was wearing 11. And I love Jimmy, and I just always stuck with it. And then I got to Roch, and obviously Reggie Thorpe was 11, and well, what a great representation of that number. So I doubled it at 22, and that's kind of how it came about.
I got a question.
That's awesome.
Obviously, like the business of the game has changed. Like guys can make more money now. It's more of a livelihood. How has the actual game changed, you think? Since when you're playing, since you've been coaching, what's kind of the most significant difference between where the game is right now and where it was, maybe 10, 20 years ago?
Well, obviously the easy one is fitness. The guys just come into camp such great shape. That's something that was never, you hear the old hockey players talk about that, but the shape that the guys are in are just absolutely outstanding. And I think the stick skills are the stick skills of the young guys these days are just so dynamic. I still got that old school in me where I want to, teach my young guys to play, straight overhand bread and butter stuff. But just to build what the guys can do this day and age with a ball and their stick, and the creativity that they can have, and the shots that they can get off, and just that, I think that itself is the two things that really jump out at me. And I just think, that I think the coaching, the young coaches that are in the league have helped a lot. Like I think the young kids that come through, like back in the day, and this is nothing to do with what I'm saying to myself at all. What I'm saying with it's when we started, it was dads. It was our dads, and a lot of the dads were hockey guys, or they didn't know, and just your buddies' dads. But like you guys all coach teams, like you guys give back, and some of the young kids get just phenomenal coaching right from Minitech, and all the ex-players got their kids playing, and I think that the kids are brought up like a lot different than we were. Like my uncle really didn't play, and I had the guy with the leather jacket and the jeans and the Daytons. That's who coached my team. He couldn't pick up a stick, but he was there. And now you look at some of the coaches that all the young kids have, and the Rock Elite League and all the opportunities they have. And I think that really the grassroots has changed, and I think that's you producing outstanding lacrosse players because of it.
Yeah, and YouTube and all games on TSN, right? It's all kind of goes hand in hand. Yeah. Kids can just watch. You were talking about like crazy 2010s not that long ago, but you didn't know a lot about Mark Matthews. Like that just wouldn't happen now, right? The games are on YouTube. You would just hear about these guys sooner. So, that's really cool.
It definitely makes a difference. I wanted to mention one thing too about when you mentioned the business. We're going in Vancouver. If you got a second, I just wanted to quickly say, it's for me that GM side of the business. I don't like it. It's like wearing the hat of the GM and the head coach. Like I try to pride myself as being a player's coach and really caring about the guys and being genuine. And when I got to deal with money, it's tough, especially when it's not mine. It's hard to deal with. And I when I took the job, and I should have mentioned it before, when I took the job, I did say I don't want to do the contracts. Like when I played in Rochester, we gave our bonus money to Junior so we could keep Johnny. Like, that's what we did. Like that's the only way to keep Junior. We gave our bonus money. Junior would stay, and we just wanted to win. So I have a tough time going up to someone, and I remember Craig Conn when I was doing the assistant GM in Calgary. Banner says, go get Craig Conn signed. So I go take him to Cactus Club. Obviously, Connor Bates, the biggest steak on the menu, and hammers that down. And at the end of it, I said, listen, do you want to, I got to do a contract with you. And he goes, okay, well, I'm a 40 goal man. I said, you scored 14 last year. I said, you're not a 40 goal man anymore. You're a 14 goal scorer. And I give you this. And he was so mad at me. And we were so close because I played with him in Arizona. We're friends. Yeah. And now in Vancouver, it's hard. So what we ended up doing, guys, is we ended up elevating Tyler Richards from goalie coach. He's going to be our goalie coach. He's so good at it, but he's going to actually do a lot of the contracts, like the verbiage with the players. Like I'm going to do, Bobby and I do the comparables. We'll find the numbers, what we do, this pay structure, what we think we're worth, what they think they're worth. But I'm not going to have those interactions because to me, it's not worth straining a relationship. Like I'm not here for the money. I'm like, it's great. I get paid good money. It's something that I really love. But I love lacrosse. I love coaching more than anything. I like the draft. I like the trades. I like being in the locker room. I love that. And you can't pay me all the money in the world just to do the GM stuff. I don't like it. I thought I'd share that with you guys too,
Yeah.
because you did mention business and it triggered me on that. So it's just such, I don't know how Keenan can do it, because he's just so good at what he does, and he's got that respect, and he's just a legend, Derek. And I just don't, I'm not good at it. Like if I can't tell someone I can't give you this much money, I feel bad. Like I do, I don't like it. So that's the one part of my job that I've kind of put transition. I did let them know early on that that's not up my alley. So yeah, thought I'd mention it.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I was actually when we're gonna talk about you transitioning, I was gonna ask like how the GM and coach came about. Like, was that something you wanted? So no, that's actually great. You just answered the whole thing, man. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's the, you see that. I mean, again, it's like, it can become a relationship strain in a hurry, and it's not an easy thing to deal with. And I mean, and it's even crazier in our sport, because the player, for the most part, is like their agent. So it's like, there's
Yeah.
no intermediary to kind of like not be offensive. It's like every time you're doing a contract negotiation, you're essentially going to arbitration like they do in these other leagues. And you'd be like, okay, well, I don't think you're that good. Like, but it's like, but I really want you. I really want you on my team, and I know what you bring, but I can't. Like, I don't think you're there. And it's like, well, man, what the hell are you talking about? But
It's like, go through the middle. You got to get to
Yeah,
the middle of the floor. You got to get off the floor, and looking at me like, you just sold. It cost me $5,000, bud. Like, shut your mouth. Like I can't. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that respect to my guys over money. I don't want to do it.
yeah,
So yeah, that's
that's
why we did
interesting.
what we did.
Yeah, that's an
no,
interesting
that's good.
perspective.
Smart.
Yeah. Donnie, Pauly, you guys got anything else before we let us go?
No, man, I think that's a great way to end it, man. This was awesome, buddy. Obviously, hell of a playing career, hell of a coach career, and obviously you're still going, man. So, best of luck and awesome. Thanks a lot for doing this, Moser. It's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so
Yeah,
much, guys. I really appreciate you. Keep up the good work, man.
yeah.
Proud to be on your show. Thank you.
Keep up those post game press conferences too. It's the most. I always talk about how it's the most excited I get to watch stuff, because it's like it's just 5 minutes of retaining info for me. So it's really cool to see it, and the journey that you guys went through last year, from the outside was pretty special to watch. So I would imagine it was pretty cool to be a part of. So keep it up, and
Thank you
we
so much.
really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great night.
All right. What an interview, man. Again, we kind of finished it off there with, I kind of mentioned about the post game pressers and everything. I love watching him, and obviously he's a man that can speak and has so much knowledge. So that was my favorite kind of interviews, are when we ask those, like, a question, and then someone just kind of goes and goes and goes and gives us so much more detail than we were even ready for. So that was a fun one that I would think a lot of people should definitely listen to. Okay, but I have this. I have something I want to ask you guys about. I saw the NLL just post this, and I don't believe it, to be quite honest, but it was this image of Vino's numbers, of his progression through his career. I don't know if you guys saw this post yet.
I saw it right before we came on, but go ahead.
So I understand he was in New York. I don't think, like, was he the starter in New York, or like splitting it with, he was the starter.
Yeah.
So
No, he was the starter, but they weren't that good, but they had that one like kind of miraculous run to the finals.
right, okay. So these numbers listed his save percentage in that run of 3 years, as well as
Rochester.
the Rochester 2011 to 2018, that his save percentage was 50 and 55%.
Yeah, I looked
There
at
is
that too, and
no way that's a thing.
I was like, man, he was really good in Rochester. I was like, he's only saving his 50% of the balls, and then like, because now he's like 80-something%, right?
Yeah,
Like in the Buffalo era.
75.9. If you guys were like, if you had a game where you let 40 shots in, there's no way they're putting up a 20 banger every time. I mean, I don't.
Maybe
We can't just be making up
Maybe
numbers.
we're only giving up. I think we're only giving up 20 shots a game, I guess. Makes sense. 20 shots a
So
game. They were scoring
He's
10 of
just
them.
playing
So
the
this
best
is
press out defense of all time.
I was going to say is, I mean, the only way I could see this happening is if Pauly's save percentage during his time in Rochester was 100% of shots on the back pipe. They were giving away Vino's numbers to you. But I mean, I was shocked seeing that. Like, I just don't understand. Like, because it says in his time in Roch, 55% save percentage with a 10 goals a game average. So
I know. That's what I
does that mean the other
mean.
teams that year were only averaging 20 shots a game? I don't know.
I know.
That was
I didn't even think I was looking at it. I'm like, holy shit. Like, he is. I'm like, I did see I'm like, maybe the Atlanta one kind of made sense because I said they weren't like that good and he was just starting out. But then, yeah, I saw the Roch. I was like, man, I was on those teams. I was like, 55%? That seems really bad. I was like, we won 3 championships in a row. How do we win it with a 55%? Like, again, like
that's what I'm saying.
a bad, like, will a bad, like, I mean, I don't know, but a bad save percentage league is probably 70%, right? Like, high sevens is like good. And then, yeah, you get into like the low eights, you're like elite, right? Like, Rosie, I think, was like 8-1, 8-2 this year, goaltender of the year. Like, and then low sevens is like, that's tough. So it's like 55%. I was like, oh,
Well,
so yeah, maybe that's a bit of a typo. I don't know.
You look at it with the full, there's 3 metrics they gave, okay? Save percentage, goals against average, and then win percentage. You can't tell me he won 78% of his games in Rochester with a 55% save percent.
Maybe they got those numbers mixed up. Maybe that was supposed to be on the other side, the 55% win percentage, because that could have been.
That makes sense.
That could have been more true. That the 55%, because
you guys had like 500 records for
we had one really good year. Like the first year they won it, they were definitely like 500, if not like a game or two below.
And then the one year you went off.
Yeah, I think that was the third year. The third year we were like 12-4.
You got into the playoffs by the skin of your teeth, right?
Yeah, so that maybe they just the graphics got mixed up.
Yeah, because you would think you would think even then his win percentage, you would think his win percentage in Buffalo would be the highest by far.
Yeah,
just based on like the teams that they've had since he's been there, but. Again,
yeah, they've been like 14-2.
I do love that. I love the creativity of our stats guy over at the NLL, and who, if you are listening to this and you did it and you're actually right, I'm so sorry. But it's, and we appreciate.
Right. I'm pretty sure you're not right.
I just don't think you can be right.
Get our boy Graham Perro on it. He'll have the numbers dialed in right away.
Yeah, maybe they were looking at numbers that Wamper ran as his last project or something. Rest in peace. But
the Bible is dead. The Bible is no longer, apparently. The Wamper's Bible is off the internet.
I know.
Yeah, somebody hacked it. They took it home. It's me.
I had a funny.
They got it somehow.
Sorry, Pauly. I had a funny interaction the other day. I was in St. Catharines for an OJLL game, and so I walk in. I'm wearing a Panther City shirt, and the woman at the collecting the money for the tickets says, "Oh, you play Panther City?" And I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "My son plays for the Bandits." And I'm kind of doing like quick math of like St. Catharines guys who are on the Bandits. And like, no one's really jumping out. Like, "Oh, who's your son?" And she goes, "Matt Vince." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, nice.
Checks out.
Best goalie of all time. Cool."
Yeah, you're like, "Oh yeah, who is he? I bet I don't even know him."
Oh, Joanne.
yeah. I just said, "Yeah, I've heard of him."
Yeah. Big League Vino's mom.
Joanne Vince, she's a saint. She's awesome, dude. She's amazing. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I guess in the last thing we wanted to talk about, we talked about a little bit in the interview, but all-time OJLL stuff here with press release of a game ending in a tie that shouldn't have ended a tie because no games are supposed to end in a tie. So now they have to do the mini game at the end of one of their games to decide.
The mini game is back.
Yeah.
The mini game is fucking back.
We have single-handedly resurrected the mini game, so we're proud of that. So, but yeah, anyways, just all-time stuff. It's funny, anyways. But was there any other stuff we wanted to talk about before we kind of wrap this thing up? No.
No, man. I got a big match play golf game tomorrow. Millcroft men's night. Got to give the guy 7 strokes. So that's where
7?
that's where my focus is at. 140 tomorrow. Big match play game. So we'll see.
Okay, buddy. You'll be dialed in. I got a big weekend heading up to our buddy Nosey's got access to a cottage here up in Muskoka, so we're playing the Lake Joe Club and then the Rock. So
Ooh, let's go. Nice.
It'll be a nice weekend of golf. So we'll give everybody an update there. I
You'll
did
lose
get
1,000 balls, anyways.
Yeah. No. What? Listen. Did I tell you I went. So obviously, sometimes when I play golf, I'm not playing the truest golf I've ever played. But I played a full true round, Piper's Heath 91, full true
All
round.
right. That's good. That's legit. That's legit.
And all time crumble under pressure moment. You think on TV it's not that hard. Just focus on your shots, whatever. Going into 18, all I needed to do was double the hole and
To break 90.
yes. Or no, sorry. I had it was a par 5. If I bogeyed the hole, I broke 90. 5 whacked for a triple to shoot 91.
That a boy. Yeah.
Just shaking in my boots, but it's I can't wait to get into Pauly golf update season here.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're joining the thick of it. But I guess outside of that, I talked with you guys about it. I'm going to start trying to watch some more PLL games, just so I can kind of give a little Lomi's PLL corner updates, like the most brief summary to get through. But I guess the one way I'll summarize the first few weeks is last year I tweeted out that Pressler should probably think about getting number 7 Jeff Teat on the Atlas the ball a bit more. And I think that's been working out for him. I think he's got like 30 points or something in 3 games or whatever the hell he's got going on. So
I will say on that note, I was obviously just a fan while I've been hurt. Brendan O'Neill scored 7 goals in the
Yeah, that
last
was wild.
quarter.
I saw those highlights. Those
It
were
was
wild.
some of the most fun I've had as a lacrosse fan in a while. Just watching it took place over the course of like 15 real minutes, and it was.
dude, he's got to have so much whip and pocket in his stick.
Yeah, I was
based
going to
on
say
how
he
shoots.
can hammer a
And
ball
it's
by
like
the
so
looks
far
of it.
back.
Dude, he cocks it back and it like hits himself in the shoe, but he's doing
Oh, yeah.
a pure overhand cock back. It's crazy to watch. But yeah, I'm watching those highlights, and then the game winner like kind of like sell like he's going overhand low, like dip down and just slap it like that was it was fun.
So the kid that threw him the pass is named Cross Ferrara.
Yeah,
So his first name's Cross.
He's the coolest dude in pro lacrosse, by the way. But.
Yeah. So Brendan's he was mic'd up. He said, "Good look, Cross." Like good pass by Cross. I thought he was saying good lacrosse, which is like such a funny thing to say after you make a sick play.
Yeah,
You're like,
I
oh
love
fuck yeah, that was good lacrosse.
we might have to start making that a thing. Like, holy fuck, good lacrosse, boys. Good lacrosse.
Yeah, like, it'd be like you hit it down the fairway. You're like, that's fucking good golf right there. Like,
I love that. Well, we want to give a shout out to Cottage Springs. Get out there, enjoy your weekends, grab a little dock pack. Let me know what you think of the tangerines because that's what I'm on. People love the strawberries too, but yeah, I think that pretty much does it for episode 118. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll chat with you next week.
Goodbye.